Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. I wanted to talk about a few different cream foundations that I'm really liking right now, and I just want to tell you guys a little bit more about them. So if you guys are interested in products like this, then you guys will have an opinion on what I think is good and what's not. So basically, the two cream foundations that I use in my kit religiously are Graftobian and Meron. The ones that I have in my kit are in palette forms. It's a little bit different, but it's the same product. This is the Meron Celebre HD, and these are the Graftobian HD cream foundations. So basically what I found is that with the Graftobian ones, these are pretty dry foundations. If you look at it, it doesn't look dry, but when you put it on, it comes off as pretty dry. These blend really, really well, and they stay on all day, but it's definitely not a product for oily skin, because if you don't set it with a good powder, first of all, if you don't set it with powder, it's going to look really oily, regardless of what kind of skin you have. But even if you do set it with powder, it's something that I found that's not going to last over like 5 or 6 hours in oily skin, because I do have oily skin. So I use this, especially the warm palette is my favorite. It's got like, I think 25 to 30 different warm colors, meaning yellow based colors, and I use those on most everybody. I also bought the neutral, but I find I'm not using that as much as I am the warm. So let me swatch this and show you guys. This is in the color Desert Sand. I use this on like the higher planes of my face, and this is how it swatches. Definitely super full coverage and very skin-like. I really appreciate that about cream foundations, because I used to always use liquid in all of my clients, and though that looks really good, I find that these look the most like real skin, and most of your clients, want to come to you for a reason. They want to look really good, something that they can't normally do, and they want to look like real people, not like some masked character. So I really, really like the Graftobian ones. Price-wise, I think the Graftobian might be a little bit more expensive than Meron, because if you want to get it separately like this just for yourself, first of all, looking online, I got lucky with choosing stuff out that works for me, but I think that their color choices are pretty difficult to figure out like what's going to work for you and what's not. This is half an ounce or 14 grams of product, and compare Meron size and this, it's just a lot thinner. So this is a lot less than the Meron one. This is about half the size, or not half the size, but half the amount in here as it is in the Meron one. And these are, I think, about $11 to $12 a piece. So with Graftobian, what I do is that I set it with the banana powder by Ben Nye, and I really, really like that. I think that it lasts for me. It looks good. It looks like real skin. But I've noticed that when I set it with banana powder, when I first put it on, my skin looks really, really dry. So you have to work with this. You have to find that sort of happy medium to where you put this on, a while before you go anywhere, because it does take a while for that life to kind of come back into it once I set it with powder. Even for the driest skin people, you're not going to be able to go without setting this with powder. I do set it with a powder puff just to make my makeup more long wearing, because I've noticed that when I set my my Graftobian foundation with a brush and powder, it doesn't last as long as it does with the powder puff. So that's my trick to making it last all day. The color choices are awesome. I find that there's not anyone that I've done so far makeup for that I haven't been able to find the suitable color match. So I think that you guys will be good on that count. With Meron, I think the one thing that I prefer about this to the Graftobian ones is that this is super, super creamy. So when you put it on, it literally just feels like, I don't know, it just glides on really well. And due to the fact that it has more emollients to it, when I'm blending it, I feel like it's a little bit easier to blend than the Graftobian ones. Now, I've also noticed one quick side fact about the Graftobian ones. A lot of the times people have told me to use it with a mixing medium, like this MAC Face and Body mixing medium. However, with that, it didn't really work out. I felt like it looked the same in terms of coverage as it would have if I used it just without. So I use it without. Some people like to use the Graftobian one with this, but for some reason, the Meron ones don't strike me as thick or as mask-like as Graftobian. I feel like with the Graftobian ones, you have to be careful about how you apply it. I use a beauty blender to blend everything out, but I also think that you need to use a good amount. If you don't use the correct amount, or if you use too much, it can look very mask-like. And it's hard to kind of sheer out that foundation while making it still, have enough coverage and looking like real skin. With Meron, I felt like because it's so emollient, it has something in here that just blends easier, and when I use the beauty blender to blend everything out, it just blends better in my opinion. I also think that both of these are super high pigmented, but I think that with the Meron one, because it's so emollient, you use less product, because I can just put a swipe on somewhere and I can blend it all out with this and it'll all look perfect, versus the Graftobians, it's a little bit harder to blend. So I prefer that about Meron. Now the one problem that I'm having with this, maybe because it is so emollient, when I put it on around my nose region, after maybe about 6 hours or so, it starts to break apart to where it just looks like cake. And that hasn't happened to me with the Graftobian one, nor has it happened with some other cream foundations. But with the Meron one, that tends to happen, and I'm not really sure why. So I'm trying to figure that out. But when I apply it, I prefer the way the Meron looks on me than the Graftobian. However, the Graftobian lasts longer because it doesn't start to break apart the way that the Meron one does. That's my only concern with that. These have 25 grams in it and 0.9 ounces, so it is almost double the size of the Graftobian ones, and these are $10. I think that with these swatches, they were a little bit easier to understand as well because they have names, some of them, not just numbers. So based on the names, I was kind of able to get a better feel for what the product's going to look like. For this, I use a mixture. If I had to pick one for like most other areas of my face, I would pick this. It's medium 4. But I use this on my hyperpigmented areas, which is medium dark 1. So I guess it's probably like the color after the medium 4. And if you guys can see, do you see how shiny that is? Because that's how emollient it is. This is just with me using a brush, and you know, it's not extra product on top of this. And then to contour, I use dark 4. I think this is the darkest one that it has. I think it goes like 1 to 4 in every color range. So I use that to contour. And I've noticed that these foundations are one of the only ones that don't oxidize on my skin, which is nice because most other foundations do oxidize. And the reason being probably because this doesn't have any SPF in it. So for photography, these are the best, hands down. So with Meron, I think it's a little bit more price friendly. I think it looks better once you put it on, but if that whole breaking apart thing is going to happen for everybody, it's not a product that I would want to use, you know, for a longer period of time, because it's fine up to like 1 to 5 hours, and after that is when that problem happens. I use more of the Graftobian in my kit just because I've always had more of it, so instead of investing in another cream makeup, I wanted to finish what I already have. And none of my clients have ever told me that that's happened to them, so it might be like an oily skin problem as well, but I'm not sure why that's happening because I use the same primer with it that I use with any other foundation, and that's never happened before. So that's something that I have to look into more. I also do set this with the Ben Nye Banana Powder. And even after I set it, I think that it looks really natural because it's emollient. And so when I use just this, my skin is going to look like like an oily grease pan because that's how it goes on. But you are definitely going to have to set this with some sort of powder. The other one too, if you want to give like a lighter finish, if you like the dewy look, then I would use this, which is the Graftobian HD foundation palette. And I love this. It's probably one of the best like foundation powders that I've ever used in my life. I don't use it as foundation, I use it as setting powder, but this looks really, really good on. So if you are not oily and you don't want to use something with a lot of oil control and just like a longer wearing thing, then use one of these because these look really natural on both of these cream makeups. Then my third one that I'm really liking is the MAC Full Coverage Foundation. I have gone to about 1 million MAC masterclasses and they all talk about this, and I've never been able to get it because here in Atlanta, the location that I can go to for masterclasses doesn't sell these because it's not a pro store. So I got this when I was in New York. This was the only color left, which is C40, which is not my skin color, but I got it anyway because I wanted to try it out and see if I wanted to keep it for my kit. And I'm a huge fan of this. The only problem that I'm having with this is that the application of this isn't as easy as applying any of these. This is probably the driest one out of all 3 of these. So when I'm putting it on, it kind of feels like cement a little bit while putting it on. So I have tried putting it on with this, but I don't like to like brush it on because I feel like with this I have to like really push it into my skin, and if I do that, then my primer is kind of coming out from underneath that, so it's not going to help with oil control. That's why I don't like this method too much. So then I started to use a brush like this, and that works better, but I feel like I'm using a lot more of this product than I should because of a brush like this. Because I can't really blend this as I go. It's going to leave like streaks across my face. I like put on more and then blend it out with the Beauty Blender. So it's a very, very dry foundation, but this is the only foundation out of these cream foundations that I've tried that looks good on its own. So if you don't have oily skin, or you know, you don't want to set it with powder, you don't have to with this. It looks like real skin once you put it on, because these tend to mold to lots of people's skin. Even though this is not my color, C40, I've used this on like the inside planes of my face today, and I like the way it looks. I'm going to wait to see after a couple hours how it looks, but I like it for that purpose. This obviously isn't the color for me all over, but I use it in certain areas, and I don't even have to powder, so it looks really, really good, like real skin. This has 28 grams, so it's pretty similar to Meron. It's just MAC likes to do these bigger cases with like a rounder sort of thing, but they could have made it smaller and fatter and it would have been the same thing. So even though it looks like a lot, it's not much more than the Meron ones. Just, you know, normal MAC packaging, you know how the mineralized skin finishes and stuff all come in cases like this. They don't have the normal range of colors in this as they do in all MAC foundations. Like, for example, they have a lot more C colors, which they don't in the liquid foundations for MAC. And they also have, I'm an NC42, but they don't have an NC42 in this, which is weird to me because NC42 is a pretty normal shade in MAC, but they don't have that. So they have like NC41 and 45 or something like that. So I guess realistically I won't be able to ever get my real shade, but he also said that mixing this with other foundations works really, really well. It's very, very easy to mix, and I kind of noticed that. I wanted to test that out today for the first time, so I put this into the center of my face and blended it out with one of the darker Meron colors, and it blended really, really well with the other foundation. So it should all look like one face. It doesn't look like different foundations in different areas, even though I've used Graftobian, Meron, and the MAC all together on my face today. But definitely like this. I think this is the priciest one as compared to these, so that's the only reason for why I would say getting one of these is better, because this doesn't come in palette form as most MAC stuff doesn't. So if you're a makeup artist and you want to get something that's cheaper and, you know, just as good, I would say, I would probably go with the Meron or Graftobian, because you get palettes that are, you know, about $80, while this in itself is $30 or $35. So it's very expensive. It's a good product, but I would keep this more for your own everyday use, not so much for your kit, because if you're going to have 10 colors, it's going to take up a large amount of space. So I'm a huge fan of palettes in kits because it takes up less space, so it's more portable. But definitely these are all great products. I'm still trying to figure out that whole Meron and, you know, the separating of the makeup, but everything else, I just love these products. I think they're really good. I get the most compliments in my skin when I wear this. Everyone tells me how good it looks on, but I do think that they all require a little bit more time for it to set in than I'm used to. So, you know, it's fine because my drive to work is about 30 minutes. So I put this on before I go to work, and, you know, by the time I get there, it looks normal. And I really just like the way it just appears on camera. That's probably my favorite thing. So if you guys want something that looks good on camera, these would all be the ones for you. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask, and if not, I'll talk to you guys very soon. Bye!